All right, so I want to show you what happens with the timeline when we're trying to adjust the frame rate after we've already started working. It's kind of a pain. So let me turn on my onion skins. Oh, I guess I need to make multiple frames first. So let's do switching blue. Got my dot there, and then next I'm gonna like start to have it move across the screen. There's small, fast movement, and it's moving so fast, of course, because so few frames, and I'm also on 30 frames per second. So that's something to keep in mind. If I wanted to move slower, my spacing really needs to be much shorter in between. Even though I'm not moving it very far, I gotta have smaller spacing. So we can adjust this, and we could say like 12 frames per second instead. So set timeline frame rate. You notice right now it's at 30 frames per second, so set timeline frame rate. So let's change this to 12 just to make a dramatic adjustment so you can kind of see what happens. So check out right now, look at the timeline, and just hit it, change it to 12, and you can see it's kind of fucked up. So we've got 1 frame, 2 frames, but we've got all of these frames that are sort of like in between that aren't supposed to be there. And you can see when I play it now too, it's only reading that first frame, the middle of that third frame, and the last frame. So you have to come in here and you have to like adjust things and manually stretch it back out. And so this is it gets messy. So try and remember to all I can say is try and remember to do that at the beginning of your setting up your file, adjusting whatever timeline frame rate you want to work at. We are going to look at a way to fix this much easier in After Effects. There's a way once we import this into After Effects. There's a very easy way to fix it. If say you've worked at 30 frames per second, but then you're like, oh, actually I do want to change this to 24 frames per second. There's ways to adjust it within After Effects that really are not that hard. But adjusting in Photoshop for some reason I've not been able to figure out like what the best way to do it is, to be honest. You kind of have to like move stuff around, and it just won't line up. See, I need to get this back to there. So I've got to like kind of switch stuff around. I had to like swap those frames back and forth. So let's, here we go. So, push that back, switch that out, see if that will. Okay, I gotta move it back behind, then I move that one back behind again. So it's just a mess. And if someone knows a much easier way to do this, then please let me know. But now we have it back in order, 12 frames per second. So my best recommendation is just to like try and remember to change the frames per second before you start working. I definitely wouldn't have y'all working at 30 frames per second. So what I want you all to do to start working on is kind of this idea of this is kind of more of an exercise to help practice, but you're going to make almost like a pegboard is what I'm thinking. You can kind adjust it how you want. Maybe like a pinball game, a pegboard. But like I'm thinking of, I want you to have shapes that are on the screen. Wherever you want to draw them, maybe we get like a U shape right here that can have a curve. And I want you to have another shape that you're going to animate. On top, and it's going to be moving around. So I'm going to add my shape. I'm gonna add a path. So new video group. So I'm gonna call this bottom layer EG. This one's gonna be path. And this will be my shape. And I'm kind of like trying to think about how I would want this to work. I might need to adjust some things on my background a little bit. Let me delete my background. And we do that. So I'm thinking maybe ball's going to come from right here, and it's going to hit a cube. Maybe so it comes down, bounces. Maybe there's something right here. Some strange shape. Another strange shape. This is real pinball, I guess. But so my ball is going to come down. This is going to be the path now. So I have my path. Hits here. It's going to kind of like ricochet and bounce, and then over here slide down, comes up, and around. I guess it goes that way. I don't know. Y'all will have to plan it out. So, but what I want you to do now is I want you to draw your graph. And so it's going to be picking up speed. So maybe like starts here and it's close together, but then it starts to get further apart because as it falls, it picks up speed. Maybe we have a moment right here where it kind of lands and squishes a little bit. So we slow down again. We have the spacing that is closer together. We have all these lines that are together. It bounces. So we've got maybe like 4 or 5 frames here where it's sort of like squashing, stretching. Then when it bounces, it's going to ricochet and bring all that energy with it. So then we're like up here already again. Same thing here. So maybe it's starting to slow down, it's slowing down, speeds up, speeds up, speeds up. And now it's going real fast. So what we're really graphing right now is the spacing and the speed at which it's moving. So we know maybe like, okay, this is going to happen within 2 seconds. And we kind of have to plan out that whole period of time of how it's going to move within those 2 seconds. And then I want you to take like whatever shape you want to use. It can be a shape that sort of like changes shape over time. Like maybe something that could be cool is like if when we got to this point over here, I'm going to turn my graph off just so like I don't know, maybe it's a bit easier to see. But like what if whenever I got here, my shape, it kind of maybe like splats and then it starts to drip. right? So it's not just a solid ball the whole time, but it can be whatever you want it to be. It can, it's maybe like a flubber sort of thing. Another cool idea that I think y'all could maybe have some fun exploring is the idea of like maybe something comes closer towards the screen. Like, can you enact some sort of depth, element of depth into into the rectangle that we have? Like, can you break the rectangle? Can you make it more 3D? Like, imagine a ball that is like a baseball that is speeding towards us, and of course, whenever it's further away, it's going to be smaller, and then we're kind of like moving along the curve, maybe. And like at this point, it's going to get really large. Maybe we have some like blur that we add to it, but kind of have to do like some frames. And of course, yeah, all those would be on separate frames. That could also be cool if you wanted to do something like that.